We are going to do an over analysis of A Prayer for My Daughter by W.B. Yeats. So, in this lecture, we are going to take these things about poem, A Prayer for My Daughter, title of the poem, theme of the poem, overall synopsis, poetic devices, figures of speech, language, diction, mood, structure, and what does the poet want his daughter to become. So, first of all, about the poet. William Butler Yeats, he born in 1865, died in 1939, was a celebrated Irish poet, prose writer, and a dramatist. He wrote a poem, A Prayer for My Daughter, composed in June 1919 and published 1921 in his collection, Michael Robartes and the Dancer. As a point of interest, Yeats' poem, A Prayer for My Son, is also beautiful and very specifically evocative of the vulnerability of the Christ child and of the might of parental love that fears not the world but only rightly and truly God. So, this is the poem, A Prayer for My Daughter. So, title of the poem. The title of the poem is very suggestive and meaningful. A Prayer for My Daughter is the title which can guide us to see a pure virtue for his daughter. Father is worried about his daughter's future, Yeats' ideas, and his anxiety about his baby's daughter's future and life. He wants his daughter to become a woman who is virtuous and wise. Theme of the poem. Prayer. Father's anxiety for his daughter, love for daughter. The poem portrays how a father who has been blessed with a daughter prays for the future happiness and welfare of her. The poet hopes that instead of growing up to be a very beautiful woman, his daughter should be blessed with the attributes of a virtuous and a great soul. She should be well mannered and full of humility rather than being strongly opinionated to avoid intellectual detestation because that can drown her in misery. Overall synopsis. The poet is watching his infant daughter sleep. In the first stanza, he starts with describing the setting of the poem. It is stormy outside, there is a kind of dark and gloomy weather, and he prays for her. And he says that he has gloom in his mind, and we will understand that what gloom is that in his mind. In the second stanza, the poet describes the things while he was praying for his daughter. He walks for an hour and notices the sea wind scream upon the tower, under the, under the arches of the breeze, in the elms above the flooded stream. They probably represent the dreaming of the human beings and they are decisive. They are all about the present things and they block people from thinking about the future events. In the third stanza, he prays for her beauty, but not too much. He considers the beauty as a decisive element for choosing the right person to marry. He emphasizes that too much beauty may cause her lose the natural kindness thus that might prevent her from finding the heart revealing intimacy and a true friend. Related with the third stanza, the fourth stanza refers to Helen herself, who being chosen found life flat and dull, and also to Aphrodite, the goddess of love, who chose her spouse, the cripple Hephaestus. Helen had much trouble from a fool. The fool is Menelaus, the husband of Helen, whom she deserted in favor of Paris. Whereas Aphrodite suffered from being fatherless, hence, without a father to guide her, Yeats intended to be a guiding father to his young daughter. The fifth stanza describes the quality that Yeats came to see as at the very heart of civilized life courtesy. By courtesy, he understands a means of being in the world that would protect the best of human dignity, art, and emotion. And in his prayer for his daughter, he wishes that she will learn to survive with grace and dignity in a world turned horrific. He explains that many men have hopelessly loved beautiful women and they thought that the women loved them as well, but they did not. In the sixth stanza, he hopes that his daughter will be a flourishing hidden tree, which is not rebel but kind and happy, but contains her happiness within a particular place. And additionally, he wants his daughter to be not argumentative and aggressive, or perhaps quiet and secure, rooted in one dear perpetual place. When combined with the previous line, the last line clearly defines his hope for daughter to live in a victorious life, like a green laurel, And the linnet also represents that he wants her thoughts to be a guide for a good life for her and her life to be in a good fate. In the seventh stanza, he tells about himself a little bit, and we can conclude that he also suffered from love and beauty, but he also emphasized that hatred is drying and destructive. Thus, he declares that hatred is the worst response one can have in the world. He hopes that his daughter will not have such strong opinions, which are the forms of hatred. Then he implies that an intellectual hatred is the worst of hatreds. In the eighth stanza, he uses an image, Plenty's horn. It symbolizes the source of the rich gifts that will be given served to his daughter. This part of the poem also accuses the loveliest woman, Maud Gonne, because of not using properly the gifts given to her, and he hopes that her daughter will use them well and wisely. Ninth stanza serves the ideas of Yeats about hatred and recovering of the world. He supports that a woman can heal herself by getting away from hatred, and also the world can be purified by avoiding from hatred and diversions. Thus, we can recover the innocence and we can be happy still. In the concluding stanza, he hopes her daughter to be married in ceremony, of which source is the horn again. He uses the ceremony to symbolize the richness of the horn and power of the laurel tree. Poetic devices. So there are so many poetic devices which are being used in Pray for My Daughter. The first of all is onomatopoeia. The use of words that sound like the thing that they are describing: howling, scream, spray, choke, scowl, howl. Repetition. Saying the same thing many times in the ninth stanza, self appeasing, self delighting, and self frighting. Alliteration, the use of several words together that begin with the same sound or letter in order to make a special effect. Howling and half-head, cradle, hood and coverlid, great gloom, sea wind scream, being made beautiful, like the linnet, live like linnet from the leaf, hatred driven hence, recovers ridicule, bellows burst, bridegroom bring, find a friend, assonance. Similarly, in the vowel sound of the words that are close together in a poem, walked and prayed, young are such overmuch trouble, fool with meat, yet that played, beauty very, poor road, love thought, beloved, hidden tree. So there are so many examples of innocence, assonance. So there are metaphors, ceremony is used for the plenty's horn, custom is used for the spreading laurel tree, linnet is used for good faith, and laurel is used for having a victorious life. Personification, sea wind scream human being, ears dancing human being. So you can see there are so many figures of speeches which have been used in this poem. Metaphor, personification, juxtaposition, imagery, language, diction, mood, structure. The language used in this poem is like the language used in lectures and also prayer. The word may gives to the poem a prey-like mood. The narrator is the poet himself, and he tells the poem quite personal. He uses I, she, my daughter to make it personalized, and that is what makes his diction beautiful. The moods of the stanzas are different than the others, but the first stanza has a frightening atmosphere. In the second stanza, he is anxious about what will future bring to her. The third one has the same mood, but in here he is careful. In the next one, he uses classical mythology to express his obsessions. The fifth one is a little bit more confident and hopeful. The sixth one is more cautious and has a negative mood. The seventh is self aware, strong, and kind of regretful. And the last three stanzas are written in a happy mood and have hopefulness. The structure of the poem is not complex to analyze. It has 10 stanzas and 8 lines each. It was written in iambic pentameter. The rhyme scheme is AABBCDDC, and the rhyme scheme is regular. What does the poet want his daughter to become? He uses the image of his daughter partly to represent his ideal woman. Most of the images that he uses are parts of the ideal woman he has in his mind or its opposites. He supports that a woman should be a flourishing hidden tree who is not well known but beautiful. She should not be anything but Mary. Innocence is beautiful in women. That's why if his daughter keeps her innocence inside and do not abuse it, she will not be affected by the wind. He thinks that too much beauty distorts women and causes them to destroy the gifts that are given by Horn of Plenty. Thus, he wants his daughter to use the gifts wisely and properly, and he wants his daughter to learn the fact that hearts are earned, and the men who are deceived by just beauty will notice their mistake later. He wants a daughter not to have strong opinions like hatred because he thinks that hatred is the worst thing in the world. He hopes she will marry and her house will be full of customs. So this was all. Thank you so much.